Hey guys, welcome to another lyric discussion stream. This is live, so it's going to be interactive with chat. So skip down to the chapters below to get to track one. We're going to wait a couple minutes for people to join. So skip to the first track. I'll put the chapters timestamps down below. But yeah, tonight we're talking about one of my favorite albums of 2021, the latest War on Drugs record, I Don't Live Here Anymore. There it is in the background there, my vinyl copy. So yeah, this is an album that for some reason didn't really get a whole lot of love from best of 2021 lists that I've gone through. It's been on a couple, but just very surprised that it was absent on a whole bunch of them. I think it's one of the best records of 2021, hands down. It's not their best record. I have a 3 Michelin star rating system, so I'd give it like about a 2-star review or rating, which is a 9 out of 10. In other words, 3 stars are 10 out of 10s. 1 star is 8 out of 10. That's how it works. My favorite War on Drugs album is definitely Slave Ambient. I love that one. I think it's a perfect record, just great atmosphere. I have a review of it on my channel, as well as a review of A Deeper Understanding. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this album. I don't know how many people on YouTube discuss lyrics very often. I don't think that many. So I like to talk about lyrics. We're going to do this for about 2 hours, and then my brain kind of dies after that. So this is going to be about a 2-hour stream. We're going to see how many songs I can get through in 2 hours. Unless I'm really feeling okay, and then we might do all of them, but we'll see. So yeah, we're going to start the stream in about 3 minutes at 8:05. It's 8:02 right now. So again, skip down, go to the timestamps, go to the chapters, skip straight to track 1. This is just the intro bit, waiting for people to join, right? If people have anything to say about these lyrics, they'll type it in chat and I'll consider it. But this is just the intro bit, as I said. I spent all day today going through my storage. I have like all these boxes of CDs in storage. And I was grabbing all the CDs I have of albums I'm interested in or I like or love that I only have on CD at the moment. I don't have them on vinyl. What's up, Joe Flo? How you doing, man? So Joe, have you heard this album? Just out of curiosity. My Music Mondays situation is ideally, you've got the week to listen to it, and then today we discussed the lyrics. So, Joe says, I love lyrics. You mean in general or the ones in this album? I haven't actually looked at the lyrics on this album yet. It's just going to be like what it makes me think of on the fly. That's how I like to do it for the moment. You haven't heard it yet. Okay. Well, so this is probably my third favorite War on Drugs album. I like Slave Ambient. I like, that's my number 1. My number 2 is probably A Deeper Understanding. Then this one, and then Lost in the Dream. Lost in the Dream has the best War on Drugs song, in my opinion, which is the first track. Oh, Joe says, I love lyrics in general. He loves cryptic lyrics. All right. Let me adjust camera just a little bit. All right. So yeah, that's the album right there. I guess that's the singer, Andy. Or Adam. Is it Andy or Adam? I can't remember. Joe says, I love Steely Dan lyrics. Yeah, I'll talk about Steely Dan someday. I'm going to talk about all my records someday. I have so many of them, so it'll take me, what is it, one record a week, 52 weeks in a year, and I have like 1,100 albums I like, and I've only done about 180 on the channel, so we've got years worth of albums to go through. He loves Spoon lyrics as well. Yeah, I love Spoon. Spoon's a great band. But anyway, so Okay, it's 8:05. So, uh, yeah, this is "I Don't Live Here Anymore" by the War on Drugs. This is going to be a 2-hour stream. We're going to see how many songs I can get through in 2 hours. If I'm really feeling it, if my brain is fine, we'll try to do every song. But about 2 hours in, and then my brain gets fried. So let me bring up the lyrics website. There we go. All right. Okay, so this is track 1, Living Proof, one of my favorites from the album. There we go. Got my camera. Let's check it out. All right, so this is not canon. These are just my interpretations. Chat may, suggest what the lyrics mean, and I'll consider what they say. So it's a fun little interactive thing. But this is track 1, Living Proof, verse 1. Banging on a drum, you turn me loose. Maybe I'm the living proof. What have I been running from? Not sure what he's saying yet. I feel like we need more. What's up, Leanne? Good to see you. Banging on a drum, you turn me loose. Maybe I'm the living proof. What have I been running from? This has kind of got me thinking about the story of a musician and how if you dedicate yourself enough to writing music and playing music and practicing and forming relationships with band members and people in the music industry, that you can, establish an audience. Not everybody's going to be as popular as like Coldplay or whatever. But as long as you, dedicate yourself to it and you take it seriously, then people will notice, right? Maybe you're not going to be Justin Bieber, but people will notice. People will appreciate it. So this verse has got me thinking about Adam. I think his name is Adam Granduciel, the singer-songwriter. So maybe he's talking about his own journey as an artist, because he says, "What have I been running from?" And so maybe he's conflicted mentally, and he's like, maybe he has bigger ambitions than what's currently going on with his band. Like maybe he wishes his band was way more well-known and respected than it currently is. Like, I don't think any random person is going to know who the War on Drugs are, right? Everyone knows who Bob Dylan is. And so maybe like Adam has been having a hard time mentally lately, and is like, he's proud of his work. He's playing his concerts. He's doing his best, but he feels like he could be even bigger than his band currently is, right? He's not a household name. Maybe he wishes he was a household name like Bob Dylan or Paul McCartney. And so when he says, "What have I been running from?" That gets me thinking about, well, maybe he's considered quitting because, he doesn't want to just be a band that does like decently well. He wants to be like a major artist that is going to get talked about 30, 40 years from now, right? I mean, I think this is a great band. I think they should be considered one of the best. But yeah, I feel like maybe he's doubting himself here on this verse. He's wondering if he should keep doing it because, he's, what is he, like 15 years into this band, and I don't know how many Spotify listeners he has monthly. I guess I could look it up. Let me look it up. That's a decent indicator, right? Oh, almost 2 million. I mean, that's a lot. That's a pretty solid number. It's not like 70 million like Drake or whatever. But yeah, I got a sense that he's maybe his ambitions are so high that like 2 million listeners to him is like okay, but not amazing. That's what this verse has got me thinking about, right? He's doing well, but he's not doing amazingly well. and he wants to do amazingly well. But let's move on. Verse 2. I went down to the corner. They're building up my block. Maybe I've been gone too long. I can't go back. Ooh. So what is that? Gentrification? He's been gone too long because he's been touring probably endlessly with his band. And, he probably, I don't know where he lives, but I assume he's been doing this for so long that when he started the band 15 years ago or whatever, he, maybe he lived in a part of Brooklyn, or I don't know where he's from, where, it was relatively cheap to live there. And now he's been touring for so long that he's finally got some free time to like hang out in where he lives. And he's like, man, this whole place is different now. So he's kind of talking about how he's been so lost in recording and practicing and playing in concerts, especially, that he has been paying attention to the world around him. He's been so focused on doing a good job and touring and networking and getting his band known that he's had like zero time to really like look around and appreciate what's going on around him. That's what it's got me thinking about. All right, let's keep going. Oh, lonesome, I will protect. I'll keep improving. Taking me home, I'm always changing. Now I suppose I'm only moving. I'm in Chicago. Come to me now. I know the path. I know it's changing. I know the pain you've been feeling. I know the pain you've been feeling. Now I'm kind of thinking he's got a girlfriend, or maybe even a wife, who, like I said, he's touring constantly. He's busy all the time, but maybe he's got a girlfriend or a wife that loves him, but they have this understanding that he's not going to have like any time to hang out with her. And, she understands, but at the same time, she's like super lonely all the time. She wants a loving partner who's there all the time, or a lot of the time, to do things with. And so maybe this is just the reality of being an artist who takes his work very seriously, where, right, you're not going to get a certain kind of relationship. You're going to have to deal with this musician who spends the vast majority of their time practicing or making songs or recording songs or playing concerts around the world. And, to me, he's talking about this kind of reality for a touring artist, especially one with, 2 million followers, where this is probably true for any hardcore, like, businessman, entrepreneur guy, right? Where, you obviously, everybody wants a partner, but you have to accept the reality of the situation depending on what your partner's job is, right? So, for instance, in my own life, I'm streaming every night, 8 to midnight. So that's time I can't use to go on dates or hang out with people, right? That's like prime time, especially on the weekend. I don't really have much of a social life anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I could look at that as well, I'm really trying to take this channel seriously, and I want to provide content every day for people to enjoy. But with that comes sacrifice of time. And so, if I were to go on a date, they'd have to know, listen, I can't hang out with you from 8 to midnight. That's just the deal. Or at least not for, that's going to be the deal for a long time. So I can kind of sort of relate, if that's what he's getting at here. Let's keep going. He says, I've been to the place that you've tried escaping. I can't recall what I believe in. I'm always changing, love overflowing. I can't recall what I believe in. Well, I kind of like this in the sense of, maybe he's the kind of guy who is not very predictable in terms of what his thoughts are. Like, he's very fluid. He is not the kind of guy who, grew up in a certain family who taught him a certain way of thinking, and then for the rest of his life, that's how he views the world. He's more flexible. He's more open to changing his mind. Maybe he has to, in order to survive as an artist, he has to learn to adapt and, not be so prideful. Maybe, maybe he was talking about possibly wishing he was way more famous than he currently is. And if you're not careful, someone like that, someone with an attitude like that could come off as arrogant or something. And he's got to be mindful of how he is perceived by other people. He needs to be a good networker. So maybe in order to be a good networker, you have to present yourself in a different way depending on the person you're talking to. So at the very least, maybe he's just open to adapting to the situation. It's kind of what this makes me think of. All right, the last verse. But I'm rising and I'm damaged. Oh, rising. I mean, again, if that's related to talking about his career, on one hand, he's rising, right? He's getting more and more famous and well respected. He's got 2 million listeners, which is great. It's amazing. But he's damaged. So, he's had to sacrifice his love life. His girlfriend, wife, he doesn't get to see them. They might leave him. They might get tired of this whole situation and leave him. He's damaged his life in a lot of ways. He sacrificed a lot in order to get to where he is right now. And it's one of those things where he obviously loves what he does. And if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, is what they say. But also, sometimes he probably has these down days where he's like, man, there's so much stuff I don't do because I'm so busy all the time, right? The analogy to my own life is, because I'm streaming now every night, 8 to midnight, I'm going to try to do that for the whole year at least. I'm sacrificing a lot, potentially. Not that I really go out ever, but I can't now. I definitely can't now. If I really want to, I can't. I can, obviously I could cancel it, but I don't want to do that. So I don't know. That's what that makes me think of, is this guy, when he's talking about being damaged, I interpret that as his chosen lifestyle has not allowed him to do a lot of other things. So maybe he feels damaged in that kind of way. But anyway, that's track 1. Let's keep going here. So this is track 2, Harmonia's Dream. I love this track. All right. Verse 1, Harmonia's Dream. I can't escape this memory. It's like a dream. It's got me up all night again. And you're all that I can see. But I've been here before. I've crossed so many roads. Never needed more than I could hold. So I've been thinking about this a lot in my own life, in the sense that 5 or 6 years ago, I had a really bad manic episode when I lived in Los Angeles, and I did a lot of stuff I regret. And one of the ways that I've been able to get over it mentally and emotionally is treating it like a dream. If you treat it like it was a dream, I mean, obviously it happened and there's proof it happened of all the things I did, but you can trick your brain into believing it never happened. Oh, it's just a dream, right? I mean, you can recall dreams somewhat vividly, but I've learned this as a mental trick where, like, if you've done something in your past that's really bothering you, you feel guilty about it. Um, you can just act like it never happened or it was like a dream you had, right? Uh, have you guys ever done that? I found that to be, I don't know if that's a healthy way of dealing with it, but that's how I've dealt with certain things I've done. Leanne says, good technique, past revision. Because like the opposite, or like if I wasn't doing that, then what would happen to me is like, I'd feel really terrible because I'd have these memories of things I've done I really regret and I hurt people maybe. And it can be hard to not get lost in thinking about the past and things that you wish you did or didn't do. It's easy to say like, oh, live in the present, move forward. But a lot of people struggle with past memories that they don't want to think about. But if you do like I do, it's helped me. You just pretend like it never happened, or you pretend it was a dream, and then, to some extent, problem solved. That's what this has me thinking about. Let's keep going. Verse 2. Running and returning in a vision, you're a ghost in black and white, a silhouette in blue and green. I lie awake at night and wait for you to come. Been hanging on so hard and now I can't let go. So now it sounds like he's talking about a lover that he, maybe he had a lover and they broke up, or maybe he had a huge crush on somebody and never did anything with it. He's been thinking about this person for a long time. Maybe this is related to track 1. Maybe, maybe he really loved somebody, but he also really wanted to be a successful musician. And so he chose the musician part of his life. And due to that, he lost a possible soulmate, right? I mean, I believe we have multiple soulmates personally, but this, just because you have multiple soulmates potentially in the whole world, it's hard to find them in general. So when you do find one and it doesn't work out because you've decided it's much more important to you to, get this band going, it's I don't think anybody could not at least have a few rough ones thinking about it. So maybe she left him because she couldn't handle the whole touring all the time and no time to hang out situation here. And so, sometimes late at night he's lying in bed thinking about her and just hoping that one day she'll be like, well, you know what? I love this guy so much. Screw it. I'm just going to deal with it. I'm just going to go back to him, reform this relationship and get things going again. But of course, that's probably never going to happen. But the thing about being a musician is, I don't even know how that way of life works. Like, let's say you're in the Rolling Stones and you've been touring and recording since the 60s. I mean, what kind of free time do those guys have, right? I mean, I think they all have a wife and kids, but I don't know how they pull any of that off. But let's be fair, right? If Mick Jagger was in love with you and you're some woman, it'd be pretty hard to not try to be marrying Mick Jagger, who it was A, famous, B, super wealthy, C, a really cool guy, maybe, apparently, right? It must be pretty hard to say no to that. But imagine you're not Mick Jagger. You're just some guy trying to make it as an artist. You're not famous at all. So, and maybe you'll never be famous. Maybe you'll never be a good musician ever. You just suck forever. You suck for your entire life. You'll never make a good song, but you try anyway. You practice and you write and you play concerts and you try anyway. But you're just never good enough. You're just not good at it. Whatever, however you want to put it, that's a whole different situation, right? If you're a girl dating some guy trying to make it as a musician, but the guy just can't get himself together, like in terms of being successful at it. That must be the worst situation, right? Then you've got to have a really good girlfriend who's like totally in love with you, who doesn't care, is willing to put up with everything. So God bless those women. Anyways, let's go to the chorus. I'm in a rolling wave that moves across the line. Am I losing my faith? We're going to lose it in time. This to me is another, he's talking about his career, right? I mean, it's all about faith, basically. There's two kinds of faith, or at least, there's at least two kinds of faith. There's faith in God, right? Spirituality. And then there's faith in yourself, right? I mean, it must be really hard, not even just as an artist, but also as like an upcoming businessman, let's say. Like, let's say you open a restaurant and you think you're really good at cooking. It takes a lot of faith in yourself to keep cooking there every single day. People don't show up, right? Maybe you have a few customers here and there, but most of the time, like, you're not making food for a lot of people. You're probably losing money every day. At what point do you give up? At what point do you just call it quits and be like, this is never going to happen? Right? I mean, I kind of deal with that in my own way in this channel where, I could just quit streaming every night and just call it a day and do something else. But, I believe in myself. I think I have good music to offer, and I'm, I like chatting with people and having my Discord server and providing these lyric streams for people to enjoy if they like the albums. I believe in myself enough to keep going, even though it might take years if it ever happens, it might take years for anything to happen with this channel. Who knows? So there's a lot of faith going on here in whatever kind of career you're looking at that isn't just, getting a degree in something and getting a job at like a business, right? If you're starting your own restaurant, if you're starting a band, if you're starting your own YouTube channel or whatever, it takes a lot of faith in yourself and dedication to just keep doing it, even if maybe nobody shows up that one night, right? Maybe one of my streams for 4 hours, nobody shows up. Do I just keep doing it anyway, or do I just log off? But anyways, let's keep going. Verse 3. Leaves are falling down like rain in the morning. I just stand alone outside and I watch them blow away. It's so hard to find a friend these days. Oh, babe, I'm sinking. I'm relating to the friend part pretty hard. I don't know how old he is. He must be in his late 40s, early 50s. I'm 37, almost. And I've been struggling really hard since I got out of college to make friends, to make new friends. Well, in general, I mean, for whatever reason, I've just never been the kind of guy people want to hang out with for some reason. I've never been the cool guy. I'm not very good at networking and socializing. I've never been the person that like people are like eager to hang out with. They're like, they text me and they're like, dude, let's go to the bar this weekend. Like, that's never been me. But, he's probably not talking about that exactly. He's probably saying, I'm in my late 40s. I'm a dedicated artist. I've got a girlfriend or wife, but I never see them really, so that sucks. But also, I can't have a lot of friends because I'm constantly in different cities all the time. So it's like, if I don't have time for my partner, I definitely don't have time for just a friend. Plus, he's probably famous to some degree, and that must be a real struggle to be famous and trying to find a real friendship. Like, he's not Bob Dylan, but he's famous to some degree, and imagine just being a famous person. I don't know how rich he is from his music. Probably not that rich, but you have to wonder if your friendships are real or if they just want to know you because you're famous, because you're the lead singer or songwriter of the War on Drugs, right? That must constantly be on everybody's mind who's famous, is like, does this person actually like me, or do they only want to know me because I'm a big deal? So this guy's having a rough time. All right, verse 4. Summer comes and rain gets in. It's like I'm looking through the glass on the other side. I'm not trying to make you wait, but I don't need any more, and I can't turn back and give it all away when it's all I have. Man, that's really intense. So it sounds like he feels like at this point he's given up so much for his dream that to just like stop right now because he feels damaged, and he feels like, his love life has suffered, his friendship situation has suffered. He feels like he's so deep into this life choice that he can't even quit if he wanted to. It's like he's got no choice but to just keep doing it. Especially if he's around 50 years old. I mean, at this point, like, what is he going to do? Go back to school and get a real job? I mean, at this point, he's just like, actually, it even kind of sounds in a way like he doesn't love it anymore necessarily. He says it's all I have, but there's kind of an undertone to me that maybe he doesn't necessarily love it as much as he used to, and he's just kind of doing it because, like, he's been doing this for 20 years or whatever, 30 years, and what else is he going to do? And now that he's especially semi-famous, he's got 2 million followers or whatever. What, do you just quit? You have 2 million followers and you just quit? Like, you're getting a taste of fame, for one thing. So, he's having this moment where he's just like, he feels like he can't even quit if he wants to, because he's already mostly there. He's got millions of followers. He's already basically there. He's not a household name yet, but he's like basically made it. And, he's already sacrificed his love life and friendship so severely that, like, he might as well just keep doing it. So, anyways, that's what this makes me think of. And in the chorus he says, sometimes forwards is the only way back to reach the hill in time. Oh wait, there's more. I thought that was the end. I mean, that's kind of a hopeful statement, right? Where he's trying not to think of the past. He's trying not to get obsessed with what he's lost or sacrificed to get to where he is right now. He's just saying, like, well, all I can do now is think about the future and think about my next steps. There's no point in getting upset or emotional about things I've sacrificed for my career. It's easier said than done, obviously, right? It's a lot easier to fall victim to reliving the past than it is to be in the now and think towards the future. All right, let's keep going here. Excuse me. Okay, the bridge. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I was lost in the light that can't be seen. Don't move around in front of me. I'm on the scene in overdrive. You lay awake. You know the way. You know the path I'm walking on. I wear the cast you're leaning on. You know the cost. You're on your own. I was lost in a light that can't be seen. So to me, that's talking about, like, from his perspective, he knows what he's doing, right? He's really good at what he does. He's believes in himself. He sees himself as like, this is all working out. But maybe he feels this way, but not everyone agrees with him. So like, it's a light that can't be seen by others. So like, for him, he sees the path forward that he wants to take, and it's very clear to him. But to like everyone else in his life, maybe they're worried about him and they don't understand why he's continuing to do it. That's kind of what it's got me thinking about. Although, I mean, dude, you've got 2 million followers. If people are worried about you when you've got a band that popular, then what the heck are they talking about? But then he says, you know the path I'm walking on. You know the cost. You're on your own. So again, maybe he's talking to his girlfriend, who he's basically saying like, listen, I don't have any time to hang out with you, but also I love you and you love me. So like, don't get upset with me that you've signed on to this life here. Don't get upset with me that this is what it is. Right. I mean, there's plenty of lifestyles that are like this where, you know, like let's say for example, the military, being a military wife, where the lifestyle you've chosen is that your husband or wife in the military could one day just get killed, and then, you know, they're gone for a very long time on their tours or whatever, and then they might get killed. So what are those people just never going to have husbands or wives? No, this is just like, that's just how it is for certain lifestyles. So, you know, hopefully for this guy, he's dating someone or married to somebody who gets it, who isn't like constantly making him feel bad for choosing this way of life, which is certainly a possibility. You know, maybe they loved Adam initially so much that they thought they could deal with it, but then it turns out they realized they can't deal with it. And, you know, at this point, now what do you do? You know, who knows how long they've been together. So, and, you know, that's fair, right? You might think that you can handle something, but then 10 years later, living this lifestyle, you realize, you know, like, maybe I don't want to be married to some guy who's like never around. Maybe I'd be much happier just marrying some 9-to-5 dude. So these are things to think about. All right, let's keep going here. It's the final bit. The outro. Now I'm gone like a light that can't be seen. Don't look away. It's just a dream. I'm out of touch, so out of reach. It's coming back and I'm moving fast. Just one more day and I'm home at last. I need that love I'm dreaming on. I know the cost. You're on your own. So he says, I need that love I'm dreaming on. Yeah, it sounds like from that part, I guess he is married to some girl and he misses her all the time, probably. He's like really in love with this person, and for now at least, she's agreed to deal with this whole being a touring band guy situation. But at least he is so in love with her that like he hates the fact that he loves this woman so much, but he also loves his chosen lifestyle so much that they can't really like he feels like he's got to pick one or the other, right? He's like he's torn about it mentally where he doesn't want to give up his career making music, but he's also so in love with this woman that it's like killing him that he can't see her ever. And but maybe she is helping him stay motivated, right? Because the few days he has free, he gets to go home to her and have this awesome, loving wife or girlfriend. So maybe like for him, she's what makes it all worth it. Is like, you know, he works hard most of the year and then he gets to go home to this awesome woman who could even be his muse. Who knows? But anyways, so that's track 2. Let me open up my Coke Zero. It's my daily ritual. The best sound in the universe, right here. All right. This is track 3, Change. This is verse 1 of Change. I've been running from the white light to try and get to you. Tell me everything that you need. I've been trying so hard. Ain't got no time to lose. Hey, Fabio. How you doing, man? Tell me anything that you need to open the door to desperate men. Easily could run from the start when you're fallen. Well, honestly, this to me is like a retread of what he was talking about in the other songs, where he's like constantly torn between, you know, dedicating his life to his music, and he's doing very well at it. He's got 2 million followers, but also he's got this girlfriend or wife who, you know, may or may not be okay with this situation after 10 or 15 years being with this guy. So like he's trying to do both. He's trying to like please her, but also be successful. So maybe he's conflicted at this point in his life. I mean, let's say that maybe he's conflicted right now where he's pretty successful. Who knows how much money he's made, but he's, you know, he's got 2 million followers. He's been touring for a long time. Maybe he's made a good amount of money. Maybe he's at a point in his life where he's like, maybe I should just quit and work on my family. You know, like maybe I've done enough and I should just focus the rest of my life on being with my wife and kids if he has any, or having kids. You know, a lot of actors do that. They make a few movies and they make a lot of money. They make their millions, and then they realize, like Rick Moranis did in the 80s. He's like, all right, I've made a few movies. I'm proud of my work. I made my money. Now I'm just going to focus on family and raising a family, which is, I know he's at least one guy I can think of who did that. Right. We all love Rick Moranis and we miss him, but, you know, fair enough. And, you know, it can be addicting, actually. Let's say he is famous and he gets recognized. I don't think he probably would, but maybe he does. Maybe he's the kind of famous who gets recognized. So it can be addicting, probably, to be a rock star, right? And to continue being a rock star. maybe he's also conflicted about that, where he's like, he's having trouble. Um, he's so addicted to this lifestyle of being this cool rock star, famous guy that maybe he really doesn't want to like slow down or quit, but he's so addicted to um, this type of lifestyle that like it's hard to turn away from it, right? I mean, imagine if you were Mick Jagger, for instance. You're like the coolest dude on the earth, and you're super famous. Everybody recognizes you. You get paid millions of dollars every year to play your music. I mean, it must be almost impossible to just stop and like do something else, focus your life on something else, because uh how many people who are trying to be musicians ever become famous and ever make millions every year doing what they do? Like almost none of them. So, right? It's almost like you have a sense of duty to do to continue doing these things, even. Like, you have to do it because so few people make it, that for you to make it and not continue to do it, it's like an FU to all the struggling artists, maybe. So anyway, that's a thought I had. Let's continue. Excuse me. All right, verse 2. I've been driving on the west side again, and the rain keeps pouring down. Finally figured out my way. I've been living on the run because I can't find the thing that holds and binds us tight. I'm out here dying in the heat. Oh, what am I to find? Yeah, when I open the door to desperate men, easily could run from the start, sheltered and dead. I hear your call, crawl inside and wait for the fall. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Dusty. Andrew says that's exactly how Phil Lynott, is that how you say it, lived? Stuck between a family man and this hard rock star, the Thin Lizzy singer. Hey, Jay. So yeah, let me think about this verse again. Yeah, I mean that's his situation. He's like kind of a rock star, right? I don't know if you guys agree with me, but the War on Drugs is not a household name, and Adam Granduciel, I think is his name, is not a household name guy. But he's like sort of a rock star, right? He gets to play these concerts and festivals and people love it, and he's probably making decent money. He's probably not like a bajillionaire like Sting is or Bono is, but he's a rock star. But he's also sacrificing so much to be a rock star. And maybe he's about 50 something years old now, and he's like, when is enough, right? When can I just like live a normal life and have a girlfriend or have a wife and kids and raise my family? Because in order to be the rock star, you've got to spend your whole year touring, making records, writing songs, practicing. You have like no free time to do anything. So like I said, it's like, it must feel like you have this sense of duty to make it as a musician. Since 99% of them don't make it, it's like for the 1% that do make it and can make a living at this and who are like essentially rock stars, you must have this insane sense of duty to keep doing it, even though it feels like you're sacrificing what might be the most important thing in anybody's life, right? Is to probably get married and have kids. I mean, this is something I think about in my own life where I'm getting older. I'm 37 almost, and I don't have a wife or kids. And I imagine myself being 80 years old plus, having no kids, and I don't have a lot of friends either. So it's like, imagine being 80 plus years old, having not very many friends, no kids, no grandkids. It's like, A, who's going to take care of you? when your body's gone. And then B, it's like, it must feel like you failed even at life. I mean, that's a whole debate is, should everybody have kids? Part of me is like having kids is like almost a selfish act. For at least that one reason of when you're old and you have kids and then grandkids, they can take care of you. They can visit you and talk to you and hang out with you, take care of you maybe. And, to not have that it's kind of a frightening thought for me. I think about that a lot. So anyway, so maybe he's thinking about that too. Is like, I'm going to be an old man now and I have no kids. And, because I sacrificed that part of my life to be a rock star. So, things to think about. Let's check out the chorus. Shelter in the doorway from rising storms, caution in the darkness. Where we have fallen, how can I replace, babe, what can't be lost? I don't want to change, I'll rise above it. Caution in the darkness. So maybe he feels like his life is like moving around in the darkness where like you don't see where anything is, but roadblock, disasters around you, right? If you turn off the lights and it's pitch black, you have to tread carefully because you could bump into things and hurt yourself. So maybe that's what life is like to him, where he has to really think about every move he makes because it could have disastrous consequences if he doesn't take everything into consideration, right? If he's like, all right, I'm just gonna like spend all of my time practicing, recording, writing, playing concerts, and spend 0% of my time with my wife and not making friends and not hanging out with friends and not being social in that way, then that might really screw him over later in his life. Like I was saying. But then he says, I don't want to change, I'll rise above it. So maybe he's thinking, listen, this is what I want. And if this is what I want, and if doing what I want comes with these sacrifices and these challenges, well, I'm not going to whine about it. I'm going to just deal with it as they come. I'm not going to spend my whole life crying about it because I'm doing what I want. I want to be this cool rock star guy. And if that comes with certain challenges, then I'm going to figure out how to deal with it. I'm sure you could talk to other famous people and ask how they're dealing with it. There's probably ways to deal with it. The vast majority of people in the world don't have to worry about these things, but, I guess that's a positive way to look at it is, to be aware of the challenges ahead of you. And instead of, being really sad about it, saying like, oh man, I'm sacrificing all these things to do what I want to do. It's like, well, at least be happy that you're able to do what you want to do and you're good at it. Take it day by day. Don't worry about 20 years in the future. Take it day by day, because for all you could be hit by a bus tomorrow and die. And that's kind of how I look at life, is like, I could be hit by a bus tomorrow and die. And, I don't have a wife and kids right now, and I could cry about that maybe, but the way I look at it is, I spent all this time researching music, trying to find cool music for everybody, and movies and video games when I can. I've got my blog with all my findings. I've got my album reviews. I'm doing what I want to do. People seem to like it. And I could cry about all these things I'm sacrificing, right? As I mentioned before, like my 8 p.m. to midnight is I'm unavailable because I'm streaming every night. So I could cry about what I'm giving up to do that. But frankly, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow and died, I wouldn't mind. I'd be like, well, I did what I wanted to do and I gave it my all and I feel good about it. I mean, I don't want to die, obviously, but if you told me tomorrow I'm going to get hit by a bus and I'm going to die, I wouldn't be sad about it. I'd be like, well, I did my best. You know what I mean? So did this guy. All right, verse 3. Excuse me. There are so many ways our love could make it through, but it's so damn hard to make that change. Maybe I was born too late for this lonely freedom fight. Maybe I was born in the wrong way. Maybe born on the wrong day. Come on, guy. This guy is so conflicted about his entire life. So it sounds like he wanted so bad when he was younger to be this rock star, playing gigs everywhere in the world, making money, being well known. He wanted it so badly that, he probably at a young age didn't think about all the consequences involved. And now he's older. He's 50 or whatever, how old he is. And now he's having all these conflicted feelings about his entire life choices. And I don't know. I mean, on one hand, that's fair. But on the other hand, like, dude, like I was saying, you know how many young musicians dream of being famous or doing this for a living and being paid to do it? Right? I mean, there's plenty of musicians that play all the time, but they don't get paid a lot. So I imagine this guy gets paid a decent amount. So I think he's not thinking about this. He's not thinking about this clearly. I think he's ignoring the fact that he's basically made it. Like, maybe he's so used to having made it. Like he's so used to this lifestyle now. It's normalized for him, which happens, by the way, to everybody. Let's say you were poor and now you're rich because you got a good job. It's great at first, but then over time, being rich is normal for you. And now it's not as big a deal because it's normalized. Excuse me. So for this guy, his dream growing up was to be this famous rock star. But now he's been that way for so long that it's normal to him. And now all of his thought is taken up by what he's been sacrificing instead of being appreciative for being able to do what he wants to do. That's how I look at it. Now this is just normal to him, and the excitement of being cool and famous is not there anymore. Now he's focusing all of his energy on negative thoughts like, oh, but I'm sacrificing having friends and being with my wife, all this stuff. Jay says, I'm in over my head thinking about your words. So anyway, that's what this makes me think of is this is a reality that I think everyone has to face at some point where, they had a goal. My goal is to make tons of money. And so they become a businessman or entrepreneur. And then they do that and they make it and they make all these millions. But then two things happen. One is now it's normal for them. So now they're focusing on all the stuff they're giving up because of it. And then two is they're afraid to give it up and just, take what they've, it's like, all right, I made my money. I've made a name for myself. Let me just quit and focus on other things. But it's really hard to give that up, right? As I was saying earlier, how It's really hard. It's probably really hard to just give up being a rock star. I mean, Rick Moranis did it. He gave up being a famous actor to focus on his family. Um, it could be possible that one day I will have to deal with that. I doubt it, but never say never. Where, if I spend all my time on the channel and I make it, and then years later it's just normal to me, then I focus all my thoughts on like what I'm giving up to keep doing it. It might be hard to give it up because it's like, how many people start YouTube channels and make it? Like, not very many. So I don't know. These are all things to think about. The answer is yes. Look at Ozzy. And then, of course, I don't think Adam, the singer here, has this life problem. But as I was saying earlier, the problem with being really famous is now everybody knows who you are. Although some people are more recognizable than others, right? Like Sting from The Police is pretty recognizable, for example. So, he poured his energy into being famous, and now he's worldwide famous, and everybody knows what he looks like. So he can't do normal things anymore. He can't like go to the coffee shop nearby because he'll just be harassed by random people all day. So that's a real consideration to think about, is like, are you okay with that? It's hard to know the answer to that. How would I feel about not being able to go to my local anything anymore because everyone's like, oh my God, it's Cole from the musical. I don't think that'll ever happen, but I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Leanne says, Ozzy's going to be pounding on his coffin lid saying, let me out. The show must go on. Anyway, so that's that song. All right. This is track 4. I Don't Want to Wait. All right. Verse 1 of I Don't Want to Wait. I don't want to wait. I'm lying on the floor. You're a prisoner of love. I don't want to change. I'm right behind the door. I'm bloodied, but I'm yours. Okay, so every song in this album is talking about the same thing, right? Although when he says, I'm your prisoner of love, I don't want to change, to me, he's talking about two things simultaneously. He's talking about his love of his career and what he does, but also his love of his wife or girlfriend. So he's probably especially a prisoner of his career. As I was just saying, he's a prisoner of the fact that he's made it and he's famous-ish and he's being paid to play music, which is like, geez, who gets paid to play music? Nobody. So he's a prisoner of his success. In other words, he can't stop because he feels bad if he does. Because like, how many people get to do this who want to do it? Like nobody. So he's a prisoner. He feels like a prisoner, and he can't stop. He has no control anymore. Let's keep going. The chorus: I don't want to wait, but I'm turning to you. I'll stop. Am I breaking you down? All right, there's more talk about his girlfriend here. These songs are very similar to each other, in my opinion. All right, verse 2. I don't want to break everything. Let me offer my only hope, like a snowflake, dancing down an empty road. I don't want to change, but I'm running out of time. I got lost in the darkness, thought I'd get somewhere, but I slowly disconnected from my own best friend. I like the imagery of the snowflake because, every snowflake is different, apparently. They're all unique. So, but of course, the problem with the snowflake is as soon as you touch anything, you dissolve and you melt into the snow. or you melt into the asphalt or the ground rather. So like he feels like this totally unique guy, but as soon as he touches ground, which is another way of saying like does anything outside of his career, then everything falls apart for him. Then he starts having all these thoughts about what he's missing. But he says, I don't want to change, but I'm running out of time. So it's like, basically, if he devotes any time to developing his life outside of his career, then it really pains him. You know, then he really like starts worrying about his future and what he's sacrificing in order to be this famous musician guy. So it's like he's the snowflake falling out from the sky. Everything's going well, but as soon as he touches ground metaphorically and starts doing anything outside of his job, then he falls apart mentally and emotionally. He just starts like really worrying about his life choices and whether he should keep doing what he's doing. But like I was saying before, like you gotta just keep doing what you love to do if you're able to do it. And because, you know, be thankful that you're able to do what you love to do. Because if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, like I was saying earlier, then, you know, that's not a sad moment for you because you lived your life the way you wanted to. So, you know, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow and died, I would feel sad, but I would be proud of myself for having at least tried, done what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about, and I tried. And, you know, the opposite of that would be if I knew I got hit by a bus tomorrow and died, but I spent my whole life not pursuing what I really wanted to. That'd be even way more depressing of a thought. So that's what I'm thinking about here. I think he needs to be way more appreciative of his ability to do his passion all the time. Because if he gets hit by a bus tomorrow and dies, he should feel happy. He should feel like, well, you know, I did my best. I did what I wanted to do, and it is what it is. All right, the chorus. I don't want to wait. Yeah, when I'm running to you, I'm starving. Am I breaking you down over nothing? Show a little faith. When I'm running to you, baby, I'm starving. Am I breaking you down over nothing? All right, he doesn't want to wait. What does he not want to wait for? So maybe he's convincing himself that he's got a stopping point. He's like, okay, I'm going to do this band thing for X amount of years, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to have a family. But he's like, but I also don't want to wait because, you know, he wants to do both things, but he can't do both things. But he needs to be thankful that he can do the one thing he's passionate about, right? He needs to think about that aspect more. But he's also complaining a bit. He's like, oh, I don't want to have to wait however long I need to wait before I can stop and then focus on family. He wants to do both, but he can't do both. And it's like, dude, in my opinion, just be thankful that you get to be a rock star for 20 years or however long you've been around, right? Like, be happy with your life choices. Don't beat yourself up that you can't do a million things at the same time, right? You make one choice. Life is all about you make a choice, and that means you can't do another choice, right? So if I'm streaming every night, 8 p.m. to midnight, that means I can't go out to the bars at night if I felt like it. Well, it's a choice. What am I gonna cry about it because I can't do both? Like, get over it. That's how I feel. Come on, Adam. All right, let's check out the bridge. All I've lost and all I found, would you understand? All I really needed was your helping hand. Excuse me. Excuse me. All this feeling lonesome, tiresome, struggling. Would you care any longer if it carries me back to you? Tiresome, struggling. So, what's up, Camera? How you doing, man? Camera, you should join our Discord, by the way. In my Twitch streams. I stream Tuesday to Sunday, 8 p.m. to midnight on Twitch. You should check it out. It's fun. But anyway, so tiresome, struggling. Again, it sounds to me like he's not appreciating how successful he is. Or like he's so hard on himself. He has so much ambition. He wants to be like the next Bob Dylan. Or he doesn't want to be just a successful musician. He wants to be like a name people know, right? So for him, sure, he's successful and he gets to make money doing what he loves and he gets to play all the time and people love him, but he's not Bob Dylan. He's not U2. He's not Michael Jackson. He's not, like all these super famous artists that everybody knows. So like from his perspective, he's still struggling as a musician. He's like, when am I going to be a freaking household name here? Jeez Louise. When am I going to be respected as like Nirvana or, the guy from the White Stripes or like any of these super famous people everybody knows. The Smiths guy, Morrissey. So, I mean, but to be fair, right? I can respect that. I can respect the fact that he is so darn ambitious that he's not satisfied with how successful he currently is. And he's very successful. 2 million followers on Spotify is nothing to sneeze at. So, but he's got great ambitions. So I guess, good for this guy. He's not just coasting. He's not okay to just coast for the rest of his career. He wants to do even better. And I don't know if that's how everyone feels. Like, for example, you might have the opposite problem where you're someone like the Rolling Stones, where you're like as big as you're ever going to get. Everyone knows who you are. You're one of the biggest, best bands to ever do it. And it's like, and you recorded all these great albums and songs. And it's like, okay, now you can just give up. You can just coast for the rest of your life. You can just stop making great music. You can just tour and people are going to see you, and you don't have to try so hard on your next album because you already got a fan base who's going to see you and pay for all your music. So you just don't have to try anymore. Right? That's an opposite problem of like, you've achieved everything that's possible in your career and then you decide to just coast. So that's a whole, I feel like a lot of famous people do that. And I can't fault them really. It's really hard to be motivated your entire life to do the best work possible. I'm sure a lot of guys are like, all right, I made my great music. I'm just, made my millions. I'm just going to not try super hard all the time and like beat myself up about it because I don't have to. So, I obviously don't have to worry about these things in my own life. So I don't know. I can't imagine the mental, emotional realities of being someone like that. Someone like Mick Jagger, let's say, who doesn't need to prove himself anymore. He's already proven himself. So he can just coast for the rest of his life if he wants to. So anyways, those are my thoughts on that. I guess that's the end of that song. Fair enough. All right, track 5, Victim. This is verse 1 of Victim. Come on, website. There we go. Verse 1 of Victim. I surrender, baby. Help me understand. I've given everything when I had to give. Maybe I'm a victim of my own desire. I can't change it. He's like, every song is the same topic. Like, he felt like a prisoner of his passion. Now he feels like a victim, right? That's a very strong word to use. I'm a victim of my own desire. My desire being wanting to be as famous as a Bob Dylan or Mick Jagger or whatever. He feels like if he doesn't try his hardest to be as famous as those guys I just mentioned, then he's a failure, right? He considers himself to be a total failure. That's a lot of pressure. But, I wonder what people like Mick Jagger felt like when they were starting out. Did they put themselves under the same amount of pressure, or did it come more naturally to them? Was it like not a big deal? I would imagine the most famous artists in the world they probably had a knack for it, right? Some people were born being naturally good at things in general. You still have to practice and teach yourself, but I would argue that like people were born being kind of naturally better at some things versus other things. But still, like, did someone like Bob Dylan have to really try super hard to be as successful as they ended up being? It's hard to know the answer to that question. I imagine they were trying extremely hard and were hard on themselves. But Adam is like, I feel like a victim here. I feel like, I want to have a wife and kids and a family, and I want to have friends. But if I don't spend every waking second of my life trying to be the best there ever was, then I completely failed. He's not satisfied with how he's been doing, that's an intense thought, to be able to not be able to be satisfied most of your life. It's like, you work hard on a new album, and if it doesn't become a smash hit, maybe it sells a lot, but if it's not like a super smash hit, then to you, it's like you're a failure. And you put all this pressure on yourself. Again says it's probably an attitude of, if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah, that's an interesting thought, right? These are all just human beings. It can be tough to just remind yourself that someone like Bob Dylan is just some guy, right? He's not some god. He's just some dude who probably had a good natural ear, and he spent a lot of time writing, and he spent a lot of time practicing. And when it comes to practicing, I would argue there's practicing well and practicing poorly. So, for instance, if you spend all your time listening to terrible music, well, that's the whole debate. Is there such a thing as terrible music? What is terrible music, if there is terrible music? But let's say there's great music and there's terrible music. And if you're trying to become a singer-songwriter and you spend all your life only listening to bad music, then you're doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion, because you're not teaching yourself. You're not teaching yourself how to be better at songwriting. I would argue, if you don't know what's good, then how can you make what's good? Is another way of looking at it. I believe that, right? I believe if you're trying to be a great painter, then you should look at all the great painters of the world, like Picasso and Salvador Dali and all these people. Like, you should be obsessed. Even you should be. That should be like all you think about is like studying these guys and trying to figure out how they do it, and spinning and learning from that and spinning off and doing your own thing. But like I keep reading about the Beatles, for instance, and how they're inspired by all the great blues artists, and it's like, yeah, no wonder the Beatles were good then. They were constantly listening to great music and trying to make songs that were just as good or better, right? Instead of listening to like, I mean, I don't know who was bad, quote unquote, back in the day, but I'm sure there's plenty of people. So anyway, that was a little tangent, but I believe that like if you're trying to be good at something as an artist, you should spend a lot of time looking at great examples of that art. For one thing. Camera says there's a pretty good podcast called Song Exploiter. You may be aware of this, and Adam does an episode talking about it. I don't live here anymore in his creation and discusses the lyrics as well. That's pretty cool. One second. Anyway, so it's just an interesting thought. He feels like a victim of his own desire, his desire to be the best, known as one of the best artists ever. That's what it feels like. So instead of being super thankful for being able to play music for a living, he's being hard on himself for still not being one of the best who's ever done it yet in the minds of any random person, right? I'm sure any random person would know who Coldplay is or U2 or whatever, in my opinion. Well, they would certainly know who the Beatles are. They'd be like, oh, of course I know. I've heard the Beatles. He wants to be like them. And he's like, he feels like in other words, he feels like he's so good at what he does. He's so naturally talented and he's put so much effort in as well that if he doesn't end up becoming as big as the Beatles, then he considers himself to be a failure. So that's a lot of pressure. Jeez. All right, verse 2. Excuse me. I remember walking through the fields of glass. I remember darkness overhead. Honey, I'm a victim of my own desire. I can't change it. Should I keep moving? Walking through the fields of glass. Is that like walking on eggshells? Or like he's got to be very careful about how he proceeds? That's an interesting thought. Maybe that's a possible reference to using his time. He's got to be so careful about how he uses his time. Or he's always thinking about how to maximize his time on this earth. To me, that's what, like, when he's talking about walking through fields of glass, it's like, to me, that's him thinking about time and how he's constantly worried about wasting his time. Right? If he spends time developing a friendship and not practicing or writing or whatever, then to him it's like he's wasted that whole day. You know, he's not valuing this friendship he's developed. He's wasted his day. Like it's a pretty powerful statement, in my opinion, where I mean, he's a very ambitious guy, obviously, is what it sounds like. It feels like any time that he doesn't dedicate to becoming as famous as the Beatles, for example, then he's considered it a total waste of time. That's what it feels like to me. And, you know, that's what they say. That's what the rich businessmen say, is like the most valuable thing in their life isn't their money, it's their time. that's why they all have private jets, right? So they don't waste time in the airport. So that's what this means to me. All right, the chorus. But you took it all and you threw it away. Never wanted nothing I had to give. Honey, I'm a victim of my own desire. Who are you? You took it all and you threw it all away. I never wanted nothing I had to give. All right, what is he talking about here? This is a little confusing. You took it all and you threw it all away. Never wanted nothing I had to give. Is he talking about his girlfriend again? I'm not sure what he's talking about here, actually. I'm kind of confused. Is he talking about himself? Is he looking back at his life and he's like upset at himself for having wasted so much time doing things other than working on his career? I mean, I like in my own life, right? I spent most of my life researching music, but I've had days recently, for example, where now that I'm streaming all the time, I need time to relax. But the time I'm relaxing, I also beat myself up about it because I'm like, well, if I spent 2 hours relaxing watching some poker stream for fun, that's 2 hours I could have spent researching jazz music that I've never heard. So like, I just wasted 2 hours of my life, and we all have X amount of hours in our lives. And as I get older, I think about that. I'm like, well, especially if this is what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get this channel going and find music for people. Like every waking moment of my life should be dedicated towards marketing my channel or finding music to share or practicing how to make videos or anything related to the channel. So it's like, I don't think that's what he's talking about, but it's what it's got me thinking about is my own life of how I'm kind of at a point where because I stream every night, I feel like I need time to relax, but at the same time, the time I'm spending relaxing, afterwards I'm kind of like, man, I could have spent all that time going through new music, and like, what a waste of my time. I can be kind of hard on myself too, in that regard. Let's keep going. Verse 3, I remember looking through the photographs. I kept waiting, but some things never change. Honey, I'm a victim of my own desire. I keep changing you. Looking through the photographs. Kept waiting, but some things never change. Again, this is kind of ambiguous. Is he's talking about some love who has escaped him, or is he looking at old photos of himself and he's remembering his past and he's remembering how much time he's wasted? Again, if we're on that same theme of every second of his life needs to be valuable, he can't waste any moment of his life because he's so hard on himself. He's so ambitious that it's like, I mean, I understand that. Like I was saying, I as I get older, I understand that mentality where it feels like you only, 37 is not that old, but especially if you're 50, like this guy maybe is. I don't know how old he is. He's probably around 50. So he's probably thinking about that all the time. It's like, man, I wasted so much of my youth, like partying, going out, drinking, and doing stupid stuff, and instead of like actually using my time in a valuable way, like networking with the right people, writing more songs, anything along those lines. It's kind of more the same to me here. All right, verse 4. Maybe stop pretending you need to be somewhere, because I'll keep chasing everything through the dark. Okay. Maybe stop pretending you need to be somewhere. Maybe that's him acknowledging how obsessive he is and how maybe it's not healthy. It's kind of how I'm looking at it, maybe, is it's one thing to be super ambitious. It's another thing to wonder if it's healthy or not. Is it healthy to spend a couple hours watching a movie and relaxing and then thinking about those 2 hours is a waste of time? Is that healthy? Or is that a problem? And should he seek therapy? I think that's a valid thought, is, I think about Elon Musk, for example. Elon Musk, Joe Rogan asked him, how the heck do you have any time to do anything? And Elon didn't look phased at all. He looked so relaxed. He's like, well, of course, he's the richest man in the world. And I don't know. I think that's a question anybody who's ambitious has to wonder about, is it healthy for me to consider any relaxation time to be a waste of my time? Or is that a real problem that is going to catch up with me down the line? As far as I'm concerned, again, if you're doing what you love and you look forward to it, then I wouldn't consider it a waste of time. Or I wouldn't consider it unhealthy to be obsessive and try to spend every waking second being better at what you're doing. Everybody's going to complain about other people's lifestyles. Everybody's going to be like, I don't understand why you play golf. I don't understand why you do yoga. I don't understand why you read so many books. Everybody is different. And, I'm very different because I don't socialize ever, really. So a lot of people could look at that and be like, Cole's is living a very unhealthy lifestyle. He doesn't socialize. So, there's something wrong with him and he's got to stop and change. But on the other hand, you could say, well, Cole's doing what he loves to do. He's very dedicated to it. And as Cole mentioned earlier in this stream, if I die tomorrow, I'm fine with it. I did my best. So what if I don't go to the bar every weekend? Right? I don't feel bad about not doing that. So who cares? Right? My mom, for example, is a book lover. She's always reading. She never listens to music. And I could be like, why doesn't my mom ever listen to cool music? What a waste of time. Why doesn't she listen to all these cool bands instead of reading all the time? And she could also be like, well, why does Cole spend all of his time listening to music? Why does he never read all the great books? She could say that. She'd be right. So nobody has enough time to do everything. So if nobody has enough time to do everything, then try your best to spend the most of your time doing things that you love. That's what I'm thinking about. All right, let's check out the chorus. Is this different, actually? This isn't different. All right, this is all the same. Let's move on then. Okay. This is track 6. I Don't Live Here Anymore. The name of the album. Oh my gosh. Let's check it out. Featuring Lucius. Who's that? I didn't know that about this song. It features Lucius, whoever that is. Okay, verse 1. Yeah, his name is Adam Granducio. Okay. I thought it was. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm trying not to get a burp on mic. Give me 1 second. Pardon me, guys. Sorry about that. Cameron says, be yourself unapologetically. Word. Exactly. All right, verse 1 of I Don't Live Here Anymore. I was lying in my bed, a creature void of form. Been so afraid of everything, I need a chance to be reborn. I never wanted anything that someone had to give. Ooh, I don't live here anymore. I went along in will. This is an intense verse. I like it. The first part reminds me of like finding yourself. He's a creature void of form. So to me, that's like, you know, we all have to find ourselves. Everyone's different. And there's a period in our life where we don't know what we're passionate about. We don't know who we are. We don't know our likes and dislikes necessarily. We're trying to find ourselves. But he's also saying, I've been so afraid of everything. I need a chance to be reborn. So I can relate in the sense that like I have a lot of anxiety and I don't do a lot of things because I just assume I'm going to have a bad time or I'm not going to like it. So I miss out on a lot of possible things I might love because I have anxiety about it. I'm like, well, I don't want to try yoga. It's probably going to be stupid. You know, I'm probably going to feel like a waste of time. When for all I know, I would fall in love with yoga and I would really meet cool people there. And it would be something I love for the rest of my life. But I have this problem in my life that since I don't, unless the idea sounds amazing to me, I just don't want to do it. I don't try things. I don't really try new things, which you could argue if that's a good or a bad thing. Part of me feels like that's a bad thing. I should probably try more things. Cameron says, who is Lucius? OMG, Cole. Fantastic vocal duo. They've toured with Roger Waters as his backup singers, in addition to working with many amazing musicians, super talented. Do not suffer imagined troubles. But yeah, so that's how I relate to this in my own life, where there's so many things I don't even try because I feel like if I don't feel like I'm going to absolutely love it, I just don't even bother. And maybe that's unhealthy. Maybe, I mean, like my natural state of mind is if I don't feel like I'd love it, then why even do it? Or maybe it's healthier to think like, well, I might love it, so let me try it. Right? Because you don't know until you try. Isn't that what they say? Like, especially with music too. It's like, oh, don't. A lot of people will say like, oh, rap sucks. All rap sucks. You know, some people have that mentality, for example, of like, all rap music sucks or whatever genre they pick. It's like, well, at least try it first. We'll try the best of the best first and then go from there. But some people like to box themselves in and just say like, it has to be, my life has to be, or everything I have to do has to be in this box, this metaphorical box, and anything outside of it is not worth doing. Although he says, I need a chance to be reborn. So I wonder if I've had this thought of like, am I just forever the way I am? Or even further than that, am I the way I am because of my friends and family and my upbringing? You know what I mean? Like, what if I was adopted and brought up in Africa or some other country? Would I be totally into different things? Or would I always be the kind of guy I am who's into music? Am I only into music because I played a lot of video games and they had great music? And because my parents played great music? You know, like, why am I into the things I'm into? So being reborn wouldn't help me if I'm just always going to be this way. That's something I think about is, am I the person that I am? Do I like the things that I like because I was always meant to be this way or because I was brought up a certain way? Cameron says, I cannot encourage you enough to embrace the situations that you fear. Comfort is the enemy of growth and kills dreams. Yeah, I crave comfort. And he says, I never wanted anything that someone had to give. So it's a pretty powerful statement where he doesn't want to have to depend on anybody, I guess. He wants to, let's see, I never wanted anything that someone had to give. I suppose he's talking about how he wants to be successful on his own. He wants to, he doesn't want to rely on anybody. He wants to be self-sufficient. He's a go-getter. He's independent, which not everybody is, you know. I mean, I'm not really a go-getter. I'm definitely somebody that can be very lazy, and, you know, there's so many things that I could work on improving, right? Like I could spend way more time practicing with Adobe Premiere, which I need to buy again, and learning how to edit videos better and faster and all these things. But I'm pretty lazy about it. And I could beat myself up about that and just say, you know, like, I'm wasting all this time not practicing it and not being better at it. I mean, you could, like we were saying in the other song, you could really beat yourself up about how you spend your time. And the question is it healthy to do that? Or should you just relax and say, look, everybody needs downtime? But yeah, I just like the thought of this song about how, you know, I am who I am because I was always meant to be this way, or because of, you know, my surroundings, my family that I grew up with, the school I went to, all these things. Jay says, prejudices are sometimes the main enemy to do something new. Indeed. Cameron says, if nothing changes, nothing changes. I like the idea, the imagery, though. He says, I don't live here anymore, which I kind of interpret that as like, he's a changed man. It's like metaphorical, right? He's like, I don't live here anymore, in the sense of like, I'm not the man I used to be. I'm a different person. I don't live here anymore. It's like a poetic way of saying, like, I'm not the man you remember 20 years ago. I'm a different guy. Jay says, I don't like limiting beliefs. Yeah. Anyways, let's keep going. Verse 2. When I think about the old days, you're always on my mind. I know it ain't like I remember. I guess my memories run wild. Like when we went to see Bob Dylan, we danced to Desolation Row. But I don't live here anymore, but I got no place to go. I think about this a lot in my own life, right? Because I was with my ex for 7 years, and I was also a totally different person when I was with her. Like, I was very unmotivated. I played a lot of video games all the time. Kind of lazier than I am now. I didn't know my direction in life, and I wasn't as mature as I am now. And so, you know, sometimes I get sad thinking about not being with her anymore. But at the same time, it's like we're both different people now. Like this guy's talking about, where he says, I know it ain't like I remember. I don't live here anymore. So it's like, in my own life, I could be sad thinking about my ex and I wish we were together again. But it's like we're not the same people anymore, and uh, it's never going to be like that again, right? Our emotions are different. Our love for each other is different. We're not the same kind of people anymore. We've branched off. Our life paths have branched off, and same with like old friendships. Like, people used to be friends with in high school or college. You've probably grown apart from these people. That's just kind of the natural course of life, in my opinion, is, and don't think of it necessarily as a bad thing where, you're a different person, they're a different person now. And, it's not worth like getting sad over being a changed man. You're a changed man now. And, maybe you're a better person now. I suppose you could be not a good, you could be a changed man for the worse. That's possible. But, I like to think of it, at least for me now, that I'm a better person than I used to be. I'm more motivated. I kind of know what I want to do now. Very passionate about it. I could do better, like I said, but I'm happy with how I'm doing at the moment. So, in other words, you can get sad over old memories and people you don't see anymore. But also, if you were to see those people again, you probably wouldn't be on the same page anymore. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's how I look about that, or I think about that. All right, let's keep going here. The chorus. Beating like a heart, I'm going to walk through every doorway. I can't stop. I need some time. I need control. I need your love. Excuse me. I want to find out everything I need to know. I'm going to say everything that there is to say. Although you've taken everything I need away, I'm going to make it to the place I need to go. We're all just walking through this darkness on our own. Excuse me. Whew, that's my Coke Zero. I'm going to walk through every doorway. Well, that's not who I am. I don't walk through every doorway. I pick my doorways very carefully. He says, I want to find out everything I need to know. Again, this guy sounds very motivated and ambitious actually here, where he's not limiting himself. He is willing to try anything to get where he wants to be, including maybe doing things he doesn't necessarily instinctively think he should do or wants to do or thinks will be successful, but he's going to do them anyway because you never know. And, sometimes, life is, sometimes you got to do the hard thing to get where you need to be, right? If things are easy, everybody would be famous and a millionaire. So, when he says, I'm going to walk through every doorway, that to me is saying he's so motivated and ambitious that he recognizes that no matter how hard something is going to be, he's got to give it a go in order to get where he wants in his life. So not everybody's able to do that. I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to do the hard thing every time because I know I have to do it. It's very easy to be comfortable. And he says, I want to find out everything I need to know. So, especially when you're very passionate about something, you want to know everything about it. You want to try to be the best at it. Maybe you can only be so good for whatever reason. But however good your potential is, you want to at least try to reach that. So, for example, I love playing poker, but I've recognized that I'll never be as good as the best players in the world. I just don't have it in me. No matter how hard I try, there's a limit to how good I can be. And that's not something that everyone recognizes necessarily, no matter what it is they're trying to do. And I feel like that's a real blessing, knowing your limits, right? So like, whatever it is you're passionate about, sometimes you have to be real with yourself, and you have to know, like, I can only be so good, right? So maybe, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know. Let's say you're really ugly, but you really want to be a model. It's like, well, I mean, it's a kind of an extreme example. It's like, well, you're probably not going to be a world famous supermodel because you're not very good looking, and you kind of need to be on the cover of Vogue or whatever. Or like, my problem with poker is I love gambling. So, I have this tendency to gamble more than playing well. And I feel like the best poker players in the world are able to kill off their gambling instincts and just play well all the time, which I can't do it. Like, I can play well for a while, but then I eventually give in. So like, I'm kind of capped at how good I can be. That's what it feels like. So, for some things, it's hard to know how high your potential could ever be. If you're trying to be a great musician, singer-songwriter, how easy is it to tell how good you can possibly be? Maybe you have a really boring voice. I've heard a lot of bands where the singer just has a really bland, boring voice. And I just think to myself, this guy is never going to be known as a great singer. Well, there's two kinds of great singers, right? There's like singers who can sing really well technically, and then there's singers who just have a really cool, distinct voice that adds a lot of character to the music. And then there's people who are both, right? They're great singers and they have a cool voice. And then you've got like the rest of the singers who just are just very boring, in my opinion. So it's like they can only do so well. But anyways, let's keep going. All right, verse 3. Time surrounds me like an ocean. My memories like waves. Is life just dying in slow motion? That's depressing. I'm getting stronger every day. I never took our love for granted. You never left me wanting more, but you never recognized me, babe. I don't live here anymore. Time surrounds me like an ocean. What does that mean? I guess one way I think about that is, right, earlier he's talking about trying to maximize the value of his time, but time is also like an ocean where you look all around you and you don't see the land, right? If you're on the ocean, you're trying to reach land, and it's like you have this 360 degrees of directions you can go in the ocean to reach land. But to him, it's just all an endless ocean, and he doesn't know what direction to proceed in. It'd be a lot easier if you could see the land off in the distance and you're like, oh, I go that way. That's my life direction. That's the best use of my time. So I kind of like that imagery in the sense of like, I think a lot of people, time to them is like being adrift in the ocean and there's no land in sight, and they don't know how to spend their time properly. And especially if you're very ambitious, like this guy sounds like he is, it's very frustrating is to not necessarily know how to spend your time. Anyways. Is life just dying in slow motion? That to me is an older person's fear of death or fear of getting old, where every decision you make matters way more the older you get. Right? When you're 20 years old or younger, you feel like you're going to live forever. You feel like you have plenty of time to mess up and try things and not do things the right way. But the older you get, you're like, man, I need to really value my time more and like value the people that value me more and stop wasting my time hanging out with people who don't care about me. Cameron says the lyric is actually, is life just dying in slow motion or getting stronger every day? Oh, okay. He says, one of my favorite Adam lyrics, by the way, relates really well to your earlier discussion about anxiety. Okay, so is life just dying in slow motion or getting stronger every day? Well, if you're getting stronger every day, then I look at that as you look forward to every day. You look forward to improving yourself every day. You're in the present, right? You're not worried about the past. You're not worried about future consequences. You're just doing what needs to be done day by day. You're focusing on bettering your life every day, even if that means sacrificing other things, right? But the first part is life just dying in slow motion is the more negative way of saying, like every choice you make has consequences, and are you ready to live with those consequences, right? If he's going to spend all of his time working on his band and his music and touring and stuff, he's got to sacrifice a lot. And as he gets older, it can be hard to not think about those things of like, man, I could have spent those 20 years building a family or forming a bunch of cool friendships, but instead I spent all my time writing songs and touring. And was that worth it? I think it's worth it. I think if he gets hit by a bus tomorrow, then he's going to be proud of himself. Cameron says, for what it's worth, anxiety is an internal state that we create in ourselves. Indeed. It doesn't come from the outside world. Very true. It is within us. Learning to face the fear and act boldly is a powerful skill. Well, I mean, I would argue that you don't need to do everything. I mean, it's okay to not do everything, right? Like, there's a million things I don't do. I don't garden. I don't play sports. I don't go to bars and socialize. I don't travel. I mean, there's a million things people could be like, oh, Cole is wasting his life. He doesn't do any of these things. But I could say the same about them and what they're not doing that I'm doing. And, it's true that one of the reasons why I don't go to bars is because I'm anxious that I'm like, well, it's loud at bars and, how do I even strike a conversation with some random person? Like, they're probably not even going to be able to hear me because I don't speak very loudly. I might just have a bad time. So like, why even bother? Cameron says, I think what Adam is saying is you make the choice. Do I deny myself the experiences I wish for because of anxiety, or do I embrace the fear and be the person I want to become? Well, that's a different thing. That to me is a totally different thing. That's saying that like, okay, if I want to accomplish certain goals in my life, I have to do certain things I don't really want to do because I'm afraid to do them or they're really hard. That's like a different story, right? So for example, with me, it's like, okay, well, if I want my channel to do well, one thing I could at least try is to stream every day, to build a community. And an anxiety I could have, and I did have 2 months ago when I streamed my first stream on a Monday, it was like, who's going to even show up? I haven't done anything in a year for my channel. Like, nobody's going to show up. So why even bother? But I did it anyway. And fortunately, people showed up. Although I wonder, like, what would I have done if nobody showed up? I mean, I'm very fortunate that a few people showed up and they really enjoyed themselves. And, you know, I'm very fortunate in that way. It would have been a lot harder if I decided I'm going to stream every night for 4 hours. And for 2 months straight, I stream every night for 4 hours and nobody shows up every time. Like, that would have been a real test of my commitment. So, you know, knock on wood, that didn't happen, thankfully. But, you know, but I understand what you're saying. We're like, whatever your life path is, there's probably going to be things you should do that you're afraid to do because they're hard or whatever, or however you feel about it, or you're anxious about it. And you just got to do it. And the more you do it, the less harder, the easier it becomes. The more natural it becomes. Anyways, let's keep going here. Is this just the same? Yeah, this is just the same. We're all just walking through this darkness on our own. That to me is just saying there's no right answer to anything, right? We're all stumbling through the dark, trying to find our way. There's no like book that you can Google and buy on Amazon that just, all right, if you want to do this, this is what you do, right? Or like, this is for you, this is your correct life choice and life path, and this is exactly what you need to do it. We're all just stumbling through the dark, trying to figure out what the heck we're passionate about, what the heck we want to do with our lives, and how to do them as effectively as possible. What's up, Lisa? Lisa says, I love the war on drugs. So yeah, like it can be tough though to look at successful people, really successful people, like famous actors and musicians, and just say like, to look at them after all the hard work they've done and ignore how hard it was for them to get where they currently are, right? They probably dealt with uncertainty through most of their lives of like, you know, they wanted to be an actor, but they didn't necessarily know how to get where they eventually got. They probably had to deal with that. They probably tried things and failed. And that's another thing, right? Is you've got to fail. Failure is fine because you learn from it, but you also don't know until you try it, right? So, for example, I tried doing 2 lyric discussion streams a week, and then I realized that my brain couldn't handle it. And so I learned from that. I'm like, okay, just do it 1 a week. Jay says, this is a profound night. I have to say it. I'm glad you feel that way. Speaking of, we're 2 hours in now, and we're at the end of this song, and my brain is fried. I'm gonna keep these lyric streams at about 2 hours for the sake of my ability to do this every week, right? Because it's really hard. Doing 2 of these a week is so hard on my brain, and I couldn't handle it. And even doing 1 a week of my favorite music is really hard. And if I'm going to do streams every day, I need to be able to achieve a happy balance. So that's the end of this song. I Don't Live Here Anymore. So yeah, there's four tracks. Maybe I'll talk about them at a future point in time. But for now, we're 2 hours in. We covered 6 songs. I feel like that's a good amount. Hopefully you guys found this interesting and entertaining and things like that. But yeah, Camera if you didn't know already, check out my Discord server. You can chat with me and other music hole fans. And I have a Twitch stream Tuesday through Sunday, 8 p.m. to midnight. I play my favorite music, custom playlists, or my favorite albums. It's a lot of fun. So if that interests you, check it out. But yeah, that is my stream for this album. I Don't Live Here Anymore. I currently have it as a 2-star album, which is 9 out of 10. It's my current rating. It could change, but that's how I feel for now. If you haven't heard the album yet, I recommend it. Camera says, we're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fears. Is that a lyric? I don't know what that is. Jay says, wow, thanks for sharing your thoughts. I have to admit, I discovered more about Cole. Well, I'm glad you found it interesting. Cameron says, comparison is the thief of joy. I agree with that. That's a nice statement. Yeah, we like to compare ourselves with people who have already figured themselves out. And we ignore all of the hard steps it took for them to finally figure themselves out, right? We look at the end product and ignore the R&D it took to develop the end product, right? Metaphorically. Lance says, I totally agree. Plan to be in for X amount of time and stick to it. Yeah. So, all right, that's my stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves. And yeah, I'll be on tomorrow night, 8 o'clock EST to midnight, playing my favorite music, playing an hour-long custom playlist, and then a couple albums after. So yeah. Cameron says, Cole is throwing down some real world wisdom for real. I try. You know, this, for some reason tonight, it was easier for me to think of things to talk about. So that's good. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night.